A dad's speech in Colorado Springs going viral after speaking out against critical race theory at a school board meeting.
I am the direct descendant of the North American slave trade. On my mother's side, my ancestors were enslaved in Alabama. On my father's side, we were enslaved in Texas. I am not oppressed. I'm not oppressed, and I'm not a victim. Putting critical race theory into our classrooms is taking our nation in the wrong direction. Racism in America would by and large be dead today if it were not for certain people and institutions keeping it on life support. And sadly, very sadly, one of those institutions is the American education system.
Is the dad on that video. Derek Wilburn joins us right now. Good morning to you, sir. Welcome to the National Desk.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
In recent months, you've been attending school boards in Colorado. You've been speaking out against the fundamentals of critical race theory. What prompted you to speak out, especially since this is not your school district?
I live in the neighboring district, but I've begun going to school board meetings all across our city, to all of them. It's my city. I'm a taxpayer here, and I care about this community. I love this community. So I began just paying a little more close attention to the school board and to things that are taking place at the school board level, from north to south, east to west in our city. And what kind of began the thing, frankly, was the COVID pandemic. With so much home learning going on, I think more and more parents are able to focus in on what's really coming across their students' desks, what's really in their kids' hands. And I just decided to start getting involved.
And while addressing the school board, you explained how your children are not oppressed, nor are they victims of America or slavery. How does teaching children that they are oppressed or a group of oppressors harm their view of the world?
I explained that I have taught my children they're victims. They're victims of three things: their own ignorance, their own laziness, and their own poor decision making. Those are the things that my kids are victims of. How does it benefit a society to tell anybody that they are oppressed or oppressors, let alone children? So a 12-year-old or a 5th grader or an 11th grader or whatever, a white child in school today is not an oppressor. They aren't oppressing anybody, and putting that guilt trip on them doesn't move our society in the right direction. That's not healthy. And it's equally not healthy to tell children who are of color that you are being oppressed. I didn't raise oppressed children. I raised overcomers.
When it comes to curriculum, how should teachers, do you think, approach America's history of slavery and racism?
We should teach history. Absolutely. Nobody's against teaching history. I'm certainly not. We need to teach the truth about history. There's two truths, however. There's the truth about slavery and racism, but there's also the truth that we ended slavery. Hundreds of thousands of people gave their lives to end it in this country faster than any other country in the history of the world. So that needs to be taught as well. We can't ignore history, but teaching that race is not a biological construct, it's a social construct that's used to oppress people of color is not the same thing as teaching American history.
I'm just curious, what kind of response have you received from parents, especially those who support critical race theory? What kinds of things are you hearing?
The response by and large has been overwhelmingly positive. I'd say 80% positive. On the negative side, it's been a little bit vicious. But interestingly, most of the people who are attacking me because they don't like what I said are attacking me on a personal basis. So it's insults, it's name calling, and we can get into the names, but you've heard them before. They've got names for you, they have different ones for me. But they don't get after the substance of what I said. They get after me personally. Because all I said is I'm not oppressed, and I'm not oppressed. And I live in a country where the majority of people who vote twice voted for a black man to be their president. We had 2 consecutive black secretaries of state. We had 2 consecutive black attorneys general. We have black billionaires. We have black mayors. Where this oppression is coming from, I'm not sure, but I live inside of my skin, and I don't walk around in an oppressed country.
What's your message to other parents who are concerned about critical race theory or the fundamentals of critical race theory being taught to their students? What advice would you give them?
Get up and get involved. You know, all politics are local, and I think there are no more important positions in the country than local school boards. And I would be willing to get, for your viewers, whether they consider themselves liberal or conservative, I'd be willing to bet that most people cannot name one person who sits on their local school board. Not one. They don't know where the school board meets, don't know when the school board meets. And if those things are true, then you're not a part of the solution. So what I would say to people who are concerned, who want to get involved, get involved. Your school board elected officials are elected representatives. They are there to represent your desires and interests. And if you don't even know what they're doing, then it's time to change some things.
And Derek, to your point, a lot of parents did not even know what their kids were being taught until they were essentially being homeschooled because they were doing virtual learning, since so many schools were closed this past year because of COVID, which is also how you found out.
That's exactly right. So every cloud has a silver lining, and the COVID cloud has the silver lining of getting parents more focused on what's happening in our schools. And we should know what's happening in our schools. That school was built with my tax dollars. It is funded with my tax dollars. I have every right to know what's taking place there. And if I don't like or appreciate some of the things that are taking place there, I have every right to stand up and let them know.
Derek Wilburn, great to talk to you this morning. Best of luck to you and your children as well. Have a great week.
Blessed. Thank you.